10 Minutes with Tiki Steve. I'm Tiki Steve, and today I'm talking to Ed Fielding, County Commissioner for Martin County, Florida, Paradise, USA. We're going to talk about my main issue, and that's our water, the beautiful Indian River Lagoon, and what we can do for it. Mr. Fielding, what are your thoughts on the water, and what are we going to do to move forward to keep our water clean?
Steve, I think that every household in this area is deeply concerned. This waterway is the lifeblood of our community. The St. Lucie River and the Indian River Lagoon compose the most environmentally diverse estuarine system in the United States. In fact, all of North America. We have 2,200 animal species, 2,000 plant species, and many of those are endangered and at risk. So what we've got to do is be more observant so that we can protect these waterways. The waterways are vital to us as a community.
What can homeowners and people do themselves to participate in keeping that clean, other than just not dumping your laundry detergent out in the water? There must be things we can do on our homes or with our lawns to help in that manner.
Well, yes, I think directly there are a number of things that we can do. Strangely enough, some people are opposed to it, but Amendment 1 would be a very important thing for us to do, because some of our problems are associated with overabundance of water. We get about 5 feet of rain a year, about 60 inches of rain a year.
Wow.
We have drained all of these areas so that we're now about 4 feet below where the water table used to be.
The natural aquifer is actually 4 feet lower than where it should be?
Not the aquifer, but the water table. The water table, that's a superficial kind of a thing. So the water table then is about 4 feet below what it used to be. So when it rains, then here it's going to be on the roads, it's going to be in the yards, it's going to be, so we got to do stuff with it.
What's the importance of Amendment 1 and the impact that it has on the people here on the Treasure Coast?
Amendment 1 is really very important for us because we need land that water can then be retained. We are about 4 feet below what the long-time water table was. And in order to deal with our rainfall, which is about 60 inches a year, we've got to have some way of keeping that off the streets and the yards and not have to send it to the Atlantic. So we need that water, we need that land so that it can hold water, so that it can be seeped down into the aquifers, can be purified, so that it can be drawn up into the clouds, so that it can rain, and this cycle can continue. This is a very important cycle. One of the things that's happening to us is the Everglades is drying up, it's dying. That Everglades is an essential element in all our entire evapotranspiration system, so that we benefit from this rain cycle where other areas of the world of this latitude don't have. They're desert or they're semi-desert. That's why we can live here, is that we have this evapotranspiration system so that we get the rain. The land is necessary, not only for the waters that we draw from to drink from, but the superficial waters that we have that can then be evaporated back into the clouds. So it's essential. Would
some of this land be considered part of like making a river of grass for the water to be retained and to move the water, or at least to house it and hold it and bring it back down into the aquifer? Is that the idea behind purchasing the land on Amendment 1?
Well, that would certainly be an area that we would deal with, because the Lake Okeechobee has to have a way to release waters. They are not sufficiently structural sturdy to retain waters, and there gets to be too much. So they've got to release water someplace. And what they do now is they release to the estuaries, both east and west, to us and to Caloosahatchee, and that's kills us, absolutely detrimental to us. So yes, we've got to fund purchases of land so that we can then divert the water out of the lake down south, purify that water, and then put it down into the glades. That's an essential thing that we do for the whole state. That's not just for Treasure, that's for the whole state. We've got to do that for the state.
Well, it sounds like it's imperative that the voters need to vote yes on Amendment 1 and start moving forward just for our own benefit, for our children's benefit, for your future, for our future.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need to do that. Here's just a second of what, back in the 1800s, Teddy Roosevelt used to come down here. President Roosevelt used to come down here to fish. This
wow,
is
wow,
one of his favorite fishing places, and several of the presidents of that era did as well. But things changed very dramatically because a canal was dug so that we were hooked to Lake Okeechobee. Changed the whole deal. Over the last 15 years, all of those changes have been intensified for several reasons. But when they make those releases from the lake, back in '98 when I co-founded the Rivers Coalition, those releases would come into our waters. It took about a year before there were lesion fish. Now, the last release was 3 or 4 days. See, what's happened, that's terrible what's happened to us. So we now have residual bacterial problems that are then more intensified by these nutrient contaminants that then come in, and it's very quick. See, we wiped out about 60,000 acres of seagrass in the north end of the lagoon. The Indian River Lagoon stretches about 153 miles, and in the northern end there's about 120,000 acres, and we wiped out about 50,000 acres. And the seagrass is essential. That's the bedding area. That's the nursery for all of our fish. So we've got to take charge of these things. And one thing that we can do is be very careful about runoff that we have as our homeowner. We need to be careful about that, and about our fertilizers that are going into the waterways. We've got to be careful about the clippings. And we have another area that some of us are involved in is the septic tanks. There are about 250,000 septic tanks on the Indian River Lagoon. And so we've got to start addressing that. And one thing each one of us as individuals can do is we can have our septic tank cleaned out every 5 to 7 years. That will significantly reduce the amount of contaminants that then go into the waterway. We need to do these things individually. We need to support group efforts on a political basis so that we can move forward on acquiring land. I've recently formed the Indian River Lagoon Counties Collaborative. It's the 5 counties that are on Lagoon, and so we've come together so that we are making common rules and common regulations, making common appeals to both the state and the federal for monies to help fund projects. So we've got to do those things together in order to overcome this problem. It's not just a problem for us or the city of Stewart, but it's a problem for the entire residents along the lagoon, this region, this whole region.
Ed, what can we do about those releases?
The releases are really resultant of the development in the Kissimmee Basin, and that's Orlando and Seminole County and those areas there as they developed, they cleared the land. When they cleared the land, then the water runs into the Kissimmee River and it comes down into the lake, and then it's got to go someplace. You know, it doesn't just magically disappear. So that,
right.
In fact, it can come into the lake 6 times faster than we have a means of letting it out. So that puts a lot of stress on the entire system. So they're not prudent if they allow the lake to get up in the 17.5 feet range, because a good strong rain can then put it up into the danger area where the dike will then start breaking. But anyhow, what can we do? In the northern part, up in the Kissimmee Valley, in that basin, there are a number of lakes, chain of lakes. And what they used to do, historically, what they did is during the dry period, they would go dry. Those lakes would be dry. And so then they absorbed all of this amount of water as it rained. And so they held a lot of water. And before, so it didn't even come down to us because they held it in those lakes. Now they've changed it. So now they keep the lakes at a fairly constant level, so when it rains, immediately it comes to us.
They're not letting the lakes run dry
No, so that's
anymore.
a political thing, and we need to address that with us as citizens. We need to go after that. Another problem that they are doing is in Orlando, they don't hold any water. They don't hold any water. So that all comes. It used to be that the waters that rained in that area, when it rained, it took 8 or 9 months for that rain to come down to the lake. And that allowed it to even out dry season, wet season. What we now, it comes down in 3 or 4 days. So now it doesn't even out, it intensifies our wet season. So it's the whole
like a
thing's been turned up and down. We need to have more land up in that northern Kissimmee Basin area so that we can hold water there. We need to put those oxbows back into the Kissimmee River so that it will slow down water, so it'll purify our water, and we need that chain of lakes to hold water. Those are three basic things. They're somewhat political. That's why we as citizens need to support those things.
Well, I support you, Ed, and I'm sure all our viewers do also. You know your stuff when it comes to the water. You've been a champion of ours for all these years, and I can't see any reason why anybody wouldn't support you on the water issue alone. Another thing I'd like to talk about that seems to be impacting us, and it just multiplies over and over again. If it's not one issue, it's another issue that's getting dumped on us. And that's that high-speed train that they want to run right through our town here. It's going to be closing the bridge. It's going to be affecting property values. It's going to be affecting our way of life. I mean, for no reason at all, I can't, for the life of me, I can't understand why they want to run a train down to Miami. Go west, go out in the cow country, put little cow catchers on the front of the train. You know, the cows don't mind, but the impact that it's going to have on us here in the Treasure Coast and our quality of life, it just blows me away. What's your stance on this train?
I think more and more people are becoming to realize that our entire value system of properties and quality of life are associated with our waters. So those things that impact water access, water availability, will have a direct effect on whether we live on the water, whether we live out toward Indian Town.
Are you talking about the drawbridge here that's going to be closed 12 out of 12 hours a day?
Well, approximately 10 out of 12 hours a day.
Oh, it's pretty close.
It's about 10 out of 12 hours a day, yes. And so that's going to destroy us. That's not an exaggeration. That will destroy us as a waterfront community because it will prevent the access both for those that want to go through the Okeechobee Waterway and those that want to go out into the Atlantic or into the Indian River Lagoon. So that's going to destroy us as a water access community. We will have to become something else. I don't know what, but we'll have to become something else because with that train, with those, now there are other issues and there's safety and there's issues of people not being able to get to the hospital and people not being able to get downtown and there are all of those other kinds of issues. But to me, the underlying dramatic concern is it's going to shut down our water access. It's going to destroy our marine industry. It's going to destroy our availability of water access.
We've got all kinds of marinas up and down the St. Lucie River, and it seems to me the only access is through the bridge over here.
Yes.
And I see the bridge up a lot, but they're running 32 trains a day. Well, every day.
Yeah, and the 10.8 hours is not my estimate, that's their estimate. So, I mean, that's one that came from all aboard, and so it's probably conservative. So,
well, then maybe it is closer to 12.
Do you think there's anything we can do to stop this train?
Yeah, is there anything that we can do to stop this other than stand outside with picket signs?
The approach that we're working on is to address the loan. Now, they've talked about having a loan through the Federal Rail Authority. And so we've got different, Patrick Murphy and Bill Posey and Lois Frankel, those are the representatives. By the way, they're all opposed. All of our congressional representatives are opposed to this.
I thought this was supposed to be a private issue. Why is there taxpayer money going towards it if this is a private industry?
Well, this is a low-cost way to do that, and so they've made that application. Now, when all this furor arose and they became concerned that avenue might be cut off, they've gone another route and they call it private activity bonds. Now that's really deceiving because private activity bonds have to be they have to go through a county or a state. I mean, it's not private, it just means the user will be private, not the originator.
Right.
And now those bonds are almost like industrial revenue bonds. They are, the county or the state does not bear the risk, but they do imprint those bonds with what I would see as almost the permission or the endorsement of this project. So if they come through they are making, in fact they already have, they've made some overtures to some of the counties that, hey, how about let us issue bonds through you? And so that will then say to the public, well, that county must think it's okay, and that needs to be furthest from the truth.
So then it sounds to me that we, as the citizens, need to address this at the county level, find out who does not want these bonds to be funded by us and our wallets, and still keep it in the private industry. Am I right in assuming that?
The alternative that they have now is these private activity bonds, which must come through a county, although the county or the state does not assume the liability. But just by being associated with it, buyers would interpret that there must be something to this, or the county or the state wouldn't get involved. So it's a misleading thing to me.
It sounds misleading.
Yeah.
So can we object though, as a county? Can we say no, we're not a part of that?
Well, our county, I can't imagine that would even have any possibility with our county.
Brevard County's against it.
Volusia at the moment has been approached, and whether they'll take that or not, I don't know. I really don't know, but they've been approached.
I know that Vero Beach has big issues with that.
Yes.
I work up in Vero Beach, and I'm pretty much in touch. I've got my finger on the pulse what's going up there, and they are totally against that train going through Vero Beach as well.
Go ahead.
Early voting starts on the 20th, so get out there. You know, I know there's an old saying, vote often, vote early and vote often, but truly and seriously, get out there early. If you don't think you can make it to the polls on election day, get out there and cast your vote now. And cast your vote for Ed Fielding. He truly is the champion of our waterways.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Ed Fielding for taking the time to sit down and talk with me and comfort me on why I am supporting him for our water issues. And everybody out there, you need to step up, get to the ballot box, vote for Ed Fielding. He truly is a champion on our waterways. It's important to you. It's important to me. It's important to your children. Thank you very much, Ed.
Steve, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.